Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Patreon request deck profile. So this one's actually for Izzy, and I'm really actually kind of intrigued to make this deck because Izzy asked me to make a deck based around the Ghost Girls in Yu-Gi-Oh! And asked me, is it possible to make a deck that just solely focuses on using the Ghost Girls? And I said, well, not really. You can't really make a deck just on the Ghost Girls. You can't make a deck just playing Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Reaper, and all of those really good hand traps. So he said, I tell you what, make a deck that utilizes the majority of those hand traps in a deck and make it mean. And I said, okay, I'll make it mean. So here we are. I'm really excited to show you guys this deck because this is probably one of the most hateful decks I've made in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And is the embodiment of the problems in the game right now. And I'm excited to show you guys that. And maybe along the way, give you a ban list prediction of what might happen on the next list. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and oh god, here we go. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And check out the Patreon down in the description below so you can request a crazy deck like this one, where we have all sorts of rewards like getting your name scripts from every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, or even getting requested a profile just like this one every single month through Patreon along with Test Hand. There is no deck that is too hard for me to make. So here we go. And yes, that's a challenge. So here we go. So we're going to open up with 3 copies of Ash Blossom. I usually don't open with this, but basically what this card does is it stops your opponent from doing all sorts of shenanigans, which is really cool to be able to stop your opponent from touching the extra deck, or not the extra deck, but stopping them from touching their main deck all the time, because it prevents your opponent from adding cards from deck to hand, special summoning from deck, sending cards from deck to graveyard, and just overall stopping them all over the place. We then play 3 copies of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherry. So Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries is a really good card because we have multiple targets in the extra deck to be able to hit that the ban list didn't on the last December 10th, I think it was when the ban list came out, list. This card is going to help you out quite a lot dealing with a lot of problematic cards in the meta right now. If you discard this card, basically, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, quick effect, you can discard this card to reveal 1 card in your hand, or 1 card in your extra deck, and then look at your opponent's extra deck, and also banish cards in their extra deck with the same name as the revealed card. So if you've got it, then your opponent loses every copy of that card, which is pretty good to be able to hit cards like Dragoons, Anaconda, True King of All Calamities, Crystron Needle Fiber. There's just a bunch of cards, and depending on how the meta shapes up, you can interchange cards in the extra deck to make this card even better. So then we play 2 copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. This card just helps you prevent your opponent from touching the graveyard, because when a card activated, including the effects of adding cards from the graveyard to the hand deck or extra deck, you can stop it. Special summon a monster from the graveyard or banish a card from the graveyard. You can just discard this card to stop your opponent from pretty much touching the grave. We then play 2 copies of Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood is pretty good because it helps you gain life points to a crazy amount, which is hilarious in this deck because basically you discard this card except during the end phase. You can quick effect discard this card to apply the effect of each time your opponent special summons a monster. Then you gain life points equal to the amount of the attack points of the monster they special summon. So for instance, if they do special summon, like for instance 10,000 points worth of damage on board, you gain 10,000 life points. This card is really good. It's a little bit of an underrated hand trap, to be honest, and I don't see it really played outside of a Romage, but it's pretty funny in here. We then play 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit's pretty good in the deck too because it can help you pop a card on the field by just discarding it from your hand, because during either player's turn, when a monster or effect is activated on the field or a spell or trap effect is activated on the field, you can just discard this card and then you get to pop that card on your side of the field, or on the field, which is pretty good. We then play 2 copies of Effect Veiler. I did put in the 2 copies of Effect Veiler opposed to the Ghost Mourner. This card is really good because it just negates a monster effect on the field. If you do want to change it out and play that card, you totally can in the deck, but the deck is actually pretty tight for space, so I just played the 2 copies of Effect Veiler over it, but you can change it out if you want to. So here we go into the crazy stuff. So you've seen the hand traps. Let's get into the really, really nut stuff. So we're going to play a single copy of Dark Magician because it's the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. We're not summoning Dragoons. We don't do that here. No, that's not what's happening. We just so happen to play a Red Eyes Black Dragon with it. That's not... Yeah, we're gonna summon Dragoons. Okay, it's gonna happen. So basically, Red Eyes Black Dragon and Dark Magician are targets for Dragoons. But wait, don't leave. We have more plays. We have more than just Dragoons. We also have Rainbow Neos, the other extremely powerful fusion monster that can be summoned off of Anaconda. Yeah, I threw it in here. What about it? It's really good. What this card does is basically these are 4 bricks in your deck that, yes, they are bricks, but at the same time, they do work out quite well to summon out your really powerful boss monster, either Rainbow Neos or your copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoons. You can actually summon 2 Dragoons in this deck and a copy of Rainbow Neos to OTK your opponent. This deck does have potential of OTK, which is what's really insane. So we're then going to be playing 3 copies of Parallel Xyz. I do have a way to actually use this card very efficiently in the deck, which is what's crazy. So basically what you do is, and I know it sounds nuts, but when you build a deck that's focused solely on using the hand traps, you kind of gotta normal summon them sometimes. So what you do is you normal summon, and you will see in test hands of this deck, it's pretty insane and pretty consistent, which is what's weird. But basically what this card does is if you link summon, then you can special summon to a zone that link monster points to, and then special summon an additional Parallel Xyz. But basically what this card is here for is using it as an additional material to link summon out a copy of Anaconda to go into Dragoons or your copy of Rainbow Neos, depending on if you lost the coin toss or didn't, because originally I wanted to play it where I could just summon a Dragoons and go in, but I realized that if I go second, the negation is kind of lackluster to me. The pops are really good, but I really am looking for that negation on the Dragoons. So if I use Rainbow Neos and summon Rainbow Neos to my side of the field, and I use Neos Fusion to summon it, I can protect it. So that's really cool from being destroyed. So you play the Parallel Xyz because you can normal summon a hand trap. Essentially, I know that just feels weird to say, but you normal summon a hand trap, you go into Alamirage, and then you special summon out Parallel Xyz from your hand, which is pretty helpful for the deck. We then play 3 copies of Numeron Wall. Numeron Wall, oh yeah, I'm doing it all. I'm going all in with this. He said make a hateful deck, I'm here. I got him. You play Numeron Wall because you can use the Numeron package in this deck, and you can summon Utopic S0, which for some reason they didn't ban on the last list. I don't know why, but they didn't. But this card basically gets you your Numeron network. And then, because, you know, we're playing a crazy deck, we might as well play Jester Confit, because this card can special summon itself from your hand, which is pretty cool in attack position, and you can use it as link material to go into Anaconda, which is the kind of neat thing. Basically, what you're trying to do in the entire deck, if you guys haven't picked up on it, is you're using the hand traps to stop your opponent, and at the same time, maybe normal summoning one of the hand traps, and then getting out either an Alamirage with Parallel Xyz, or getting a Jester with your copy of a Alamirage on your side of the field. It kind of depends on which way you want to go. Or using Numerons. It's kind of weird. It's very reminiscent of what the OCG was doing before they actually banned Dragoons and S0. So that's it for the monsters. Let's get into the spells, because it gets worse. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn, because it gives us additional monster on our side of the field, which is pretty cool for using it to go into Anaconda. 1 copy of Pot of Avarice for the memes, and this card helps out a lot because if your opponent does stop you from going into, say, one of your gates, like, you can use this card to be able to get your gates back into the extra deck and use your copy of Numeron Calling again, which your opponent might not see coming, which is kind of cool. Then we play a single copy of the Emergency Teleport. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, what can we use with Emergency Teleport? Well, I used a Big Brain 200 IQ to think about that, about getting an extra monster on the side of the field, so guess what you can use? You can actually summon out your Ghost Ogre, because it's the only Ghost Girl that's a psychic, and it isn't actually a zombie. So that's kind of a neat little trick that you can actually do in the deck. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is you can't go into Alamirage with that, because Alamirage requires a monster that's been normal summoned. We then play, for the fusion spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Neos Fusion to go into Rainbow Neos, which this also has a protection effect on it. It's pretty much Red Eyes Fusion, but with extra stuff. Then it makes it so the monster that lists Elementor or Neos as a material, if that monster you control lists Elementor or Neos as a material, would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, or shuffled into the extra deck by its own effect, then you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, so it gives it a protection as well. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Fusion to go into Dragoons, and a single copy of Magical Eyes Fusion, because going into 1 Dragoons just isn't enough. We then play 2 copies of Memories of Hope. Memories of Hope is essentially a wild draw 4 if you've ever played Uno, except it's good for us this time. You actually want to get wild draw 4 instead of getting called blue and you're actually red because you're angry because you had to draw 4. But what this card does is it draws cards equal to the number of Xyz monsters you control. So if you activate Numeron Network, it's really funny to be able to draw 4 cards off all 4 of your gates. We then play 2 copies of Numeron Calling. Numeron Calling is really cool because if Numeron Calling is activated, it lets you special summon all 4 gates if you don't control a monster. And then you play 3 copies of Numeron Network because it's ridiculously easy and you have like 6 ways to get to it in the deck. And then during your main phase, you can send a Numeron normal spell, which this is the literal only Numeron spell in the entire deck, to the graveyard, and then you get to apply its effect as if it was its own. But you can only special summon once for the rest of the turn, which is usually going to be either Mega Clops, which is ridiculously out, or your S0 to make it your opponent so they can't play Yu-Gi-Oh at all. So that's it for the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, this is where it gets really rough. So here we go. So first off, we're going to open up with double Anaconda. Anaconda wants Bunton, and it's going to get them. Because you're going to summon either Rainbow Neos or Double Dragoons with this. It kind of depends on which way you want to go. You pay 2,000, you send a spell card to the graveyard that's either a fusion or a polymerization from your deck to the graveyard, and apply it if it was its own effect. I eventually see this card getting banned, but hey, whatever. We're going to be playing a single copy of Rainbow Neos because this card is absolutely insane and not quite as bad as Dragoons. But what this card does is it lets you send a monster you control to the graveyard to shuffle all cards your opponent controls that are monsters into the deck. You send a spell or trap you control to the graveyard to shuffle all spells and traps they control into the deck. Or you send a card from the top of your deck to the graveyard to shuffle all cards in their graveyard back into their deck. This card is really mean, I have to say. We then play 2 copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoons. Oh, here it goes. We're going to play double Dragoons again. So what this card does is basically it cannot be destroyed by card effects. Neither player can target this card with card effects. And then during the main phase, you can destroy 1 monster for each vanilla monster that you put into the fusion summon of this card. And it is an Omni Negate that you can just discard a card to negate the 1 card on the field effect, which is pretty cool. And also if it destroys that monster, negates a card, and destroys it, then this card gains 1,000. And it can pop 2 cards per turn, which is pretty nuts. We then play a single copy of Infinitrack Mega Clops, which you use all 4 of your gates pretty much at any time when you use Numeron Network during the end phase to be able to go into this really, really, really easily. We then play 1 each of the gates, which is number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. I know if you can count to 4, you can play Numeron. What this card does is basically they all share the exact same effect. If you guys didn't know what these do, they do the exact same thing. So basically the gates say they cannot be destroyed by battle, and at the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can detach a material from this card, double the attack of all Numeron monsters you control until the end phase. So basically if you attack with gate number 1, it's 1,000, you double the attack, goes to gate number 2, and then 2,000, then 4,000, then 8,000, and the funny thing is Numeron Network makes it so they don't have to detach materials for their effects. So you essentially get like 16,000 damage on board. Well, actually no, it's 8, 4, which is 12 plus 2 is 14, so it's 15,000 damage on board. Yeah, that's real fun. We then play a single copy of S0 because you can use 3 of your gates to go into this card and essentially turn Yu-Gi-Oh off for your opponent during their next turn, which is funny because you can detach a material from this card and then make it so your opponent cannot activate any effects for the rest of the turn. Again, surprised this is not banned. We then play a single copy of Alamirage, which is why I mentioned earlier, sometimes you will normal summon one of your Ghost Girls or one of your hand traps to be able to link it away to summon Alamirage. And then when you link it away to summon Alamirage, there was a little issue in playtesting for me that I had with Infinitrack Megaclops, because if I link summon under Megaclops and I don't have, like, for instance, if I don't have the zone, because this is already pointing down and then this points down to a spell and trap card zone, I had an issue. I couldn't summon Parallel Xyz because it has to be summoned to the monster that was just summoned, so I have an out for that. You play a single copy of Secure Gardna, which points to the right, and it's kind of like the Invoked engine, where you're going Alamirage into the Secure Gardna, and it points to the right instead of just down. So you go Alamirage into Secure Gardna, which helps out a lot. And then you play for the 2 cherries targets. You're going to be playing a single copy of True King of All Calamities and a single copy of Crystron Needlefiber, which you can make Crystron Needlefiber. You cannot make True King of All Calamities in this deck. But the really nice thing is you're playing all the crazy cards already, so Cherries is really live in this deck anyways, because you can either hit Anaconda, Rainbow Neos, Dragoons, Mega Clops, any of the gates, S0 if your opponent plays S0. If you see Numeron Network come out, you just drop it and hit whichever one you don't want to deal with, pretty much. If I had a hand trap in hand, I would probably hit the Mega Clops, because you can't really out Mega Clops. Well, yeah, you can, because you played the Numeron gate. So it just kind of picks whichever one you don't want to deal with. And then True King of All Calamities is just needing to be banned anyway. So anyways, that's it for the deck profile. Definitely give Izzy some love down in the comments down below, because Izzy's actually the one that requested this deck. And thank you so much for the request, Izzy. I actually really enjoyed building this deck because of how crazy it is, because every time I played it, I felt like my opponent had the face of this Anaconda on. Like, they were just screaming like the Anaconda, which is really fun, actually. I kind of enjoyed it. It's really crazy and just an overall hateful deck, to be honest, and it's fun and I enjoyed it. So anyways, guys, and I'm not gonna lie, I did have fun with this. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notification squad, and definitely give Izzy some love down in the comments down below. And check out the Patreon, because you can request a crazy deck just like this one once a month, every month that you're a patron of a certain tier. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.